Welcome everyone to the Financing a Sustainable Food System webinar today. We are hosting a range of speakers from different parts of the food system who will hopefully provide plenty of insight into how we can move forward with sustaining and financing food system for the future of humanity itself. The webinar will discuss the existing fiscal challenges of the food system at present, but it will also address the different means of financing new forms of production and distribution for a more sustainable global food system. With welcomes aside, I will introduce our first speaker, Marieke van Schie. She's an experienced project manager and agri-business development specialist with a proven expertise in business development, inclusive market development, entrepreneurship, and project management. With 20 years experience in Africa, Latin America, and Asia, Marieke's career includes work in the areas of development of agriculture value chains, leading multi-stakeholder process facilitation, trade facilitation, inclusive private sector development, project acquisition, entrepreneurship, in addition to project and program management. Welcome, Marieke. I will hand it over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, and I work for SNV already. Oh, I see. I am going up and down in the lightwise. So I'm delighted to be here, even though there's something going on with the light. But if not, I can also always switch off my camera if needed. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about the project that I'm currently managing, which is the CRAFT program, Climate Resilient Value Change for Improved Livelihoods. But I work for SNV, Netherlands Development Organization. And I would first like to share with you a little bit about SNV and also about how agri food systems fit in our new strategy. We have launched our new strategy, I think, last week, a new strategy towards 2030. And but let me first go into who we are. Now, SNV is a mission-driven global development partner. Yes, we are based in the Netherlands. Yes, I am Dutch, but we are a global development partner that has local presence in more than 20 countries in Africa and in Asia. And we are a team of more than 1,600 people. The majority are people, coming from the countries where we work in. And you can see our vision and our mission. And through our vision and our mission, we aim to contribute to the SDGs through effective program delivery and influencing. And there's a central focus on transforming agri-food, energy, and water systems, which will enable sustainable and more equitable lives for all. And again, you can see that back in our vision and mission. So our vision for impact is driven by our mission, and our work to 2030 is defined by the intersection between 9 major SDGs and our 3 sectors of focus and 3 core themes. Our 3 sectors of focus are agri-food, energy, and water. And within and across these sectors of focus, we have 3 core areas that are interlinked. And one is gender equality and social inclusion, then climate adaptation and mitigation, and strong institutions and effective governance. And across those sectors and themes, we align our efforts to those relevant SDGs and measurably want to contribute to those specific elements of the SDGs. Now, I work in agri-food systems, which I think is very much aligned with what we want to talk about here today. SMV works towards transition in sustainable and resilient agri-food systems, delivering food security and sufficient nutrition for people in all their different diversities. And we have the following specific impact goals. We look at food security and healthy diets, sustainable production in a healthy ecosystem, and economic participation and social inclusion. Now, talking about food systems, I go a little bit further further into what craft is about. Now, looking at food systems, they're the cause and the victim of climate change. Of course, we're all aware of how agriculture influences climate change, but also climate change affects the major food production regions. And especially those food insecure countries are increasingly more vulnerable to short-term crises. So then, making the jump to the craft project, the challenge that craft is working towards is looking at climate change risks. For example, reduced precipitation or very heavy rainfall or increased drought periods. Those are some of the climate change risks that impact food production and therefore also food systems. And vulnerable groups such as smallholder farmers are likely to be mostly negatively affected. Climate change can also positively affect, but mostly smallholder farmers are vulnerable for those heavy shocks. And if we look at the growing population in East Africa, it is very important that especially those food crops, that we look at climate adaptation and how can that be done. And of course, we have now today the International Day, the World Soil Day. There's also this aspect of land fragmentation, degradation, soil fertility loss that also affects productivity. So there's a need for an inclusive approach. And craft is a project that tries to work on an inclusive approach. Now, craft, very quickly, it's a 5-year program. We're currently in year 4. Our project donor is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from the Netherlands, and SNV is the lead implementer, but we work together with Wageningen University, with SICAFs or ILRI, and Rabobank, Agriterra, do I have everybody? Yes. It's a consortium of 6 partners. And our project goal, or the goal that is to contribute to the increased availability of accessible and climate resilient food for the growing population. And we do that, and it's in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. And we do that through working towards 3 objectives of 3 areas that we want to influence. First, the productive capacity and income of smallholder farmers. Then also business performance of agribusinesses and cooperatives, and climate resilient, sustainable food production on 600,000 hectares. And I can't really see this very, very well myself. And our implementation strategy has a complementary approach around climate resilient services, again, for the smallholder farmers, but also climate smart financing, women and youth inclusion, and scaling of climate solutions. We're currently working with 54 companies in the 3 countries on climate inclusive business cases. And through those business cases, we have been able to reach, it says here 174,000 farmers, but we're actually already at over 200,000 farmers, working with them on climate adaptation and understanding what to do with different risks. And looking at the different climate solutions and yeah, let me keep it at that. I'm having a problem with looking. I'm not sure if everybody is also seeing my camera like you see it. So we have these 54 companies working in the different value chain, the food value chain, and our strategic actions focuses on leveraging private sector investments. So with these 54 companies, we actually have been able to leverage around 13 million euro by us investing 7 a million euro. But we have also been able to facilitate knowledge and technology transfer and support evidence-based policy dialogues. Now, a specific area that I wanted to share with you is the area of climate information services. And if we look at financing food systems, climate information is a key strategy to support climate action, which then also, of course, translates back to food systems. So what we have done within Craft is we have worked on climate projections and also looking at the impact of the different crops. We have assessed climate risks on value chain activities by all actors. We have looked at crop suitability maps under a changing climate change condition, and also linking suitability maps with financial data to support climate smart financial analysis, which is an area that supports also local financial institutions to understand what climate change is actually going to mean for their portfolio and how to make the right decisions. I want to share very quickly with you for a case in Tanzania where we first looked at the probability of drought. As you can see over the different months, what is, if we look at the climate modeling, where is the probability of drought actually going to increase or maybe even decrease? And then we did climate change impact assessments on the potato yield. Again, I don't know how good you can see it. There you can see there's a shift in some areas are not affected, but there and it depends also on the season. But other areas are heavily affected, especially in the second season, which is October, November, and December. And based on those scenarios, we have made climate adaptation assessments, and also what are the different practices that for example, farmers can do, companies can do, and those are the cases that then we will work on with the different businesses. And for example, again, you can see here the potato suitability in a changing climate in Tanzania. At the left side, you can see the suitability as a baseline, where you can see there are areas that are now very suitable to grow potato. But if we look under an RCP of 8.5 in future climate, we see that the scope for expansion is very, very little, and that some areas are really, really reducing in being suitable. So therefore, action in financing a sustainable food system is needed. And investment in that climate information services is necessary to support the planning and the financing of climate smart agriculture. And we need to strengthen agribusinesses. Now, as I've explained, we work with agribusinesses and financial institutions on climate information services and bankable adaptation options. And like we did in craft, de-risking mechanisms such as grants and technical assistance will support the the leveraging of those investments, and also it will allow the scaling and a horizontal and a vertical level, and multi-stakeholder engagement, of course, to again also leveraging and scaling of the of the solutions. But if we look at the financing, we think also microfinance institutions should be included, because one of the lessons that we saw is that yes, for farmers, linking them with the agri-SMEs to ensure production and making sure that we work on the climate risks. The linkages and the markets are very important, but access to finance is actually crucial. So even though you finance the agribusiness, also the farmers need that finance. Well, with this, I want to close actually with a short video of one of the companies we work with in Kenya, and I hope you can hear. Thank you. Can you hear?
Vulnerable population on the planet. Building climate resilience for these farmers requires massive investment in agricultural value chains to boost the adoption of climate-smart agriculture. To address this problem, in 2018, the Netherlands government committed 36 million euros to a flagship climate adaptation project known as CRAFT, implemented by the Netherlands Development Organization and in partnership with Wageningen University and Research, CJRR's Climate Change Agriculture and Food Security Program, and Agriterra. CRAFT seeks to contribute to increased availability of accessible and resilient food for the growing populations in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. In this video, Topical Ventures, an agri-SME, shares how CRAFT's support has promoted enhanced nutrition and food security in Kenya using traditional crops and project-validated climate-smart agricultural practices and technologies.
Topical Ventures was born around the concept of working with small-scale farmers in drought-tolerant crops. And our main focus was really centered around green grams, but we also purchase other drought-tolerant crops like cowpeas, millet, and sorghum. Traditionally, the green gram has been consumed in rural settings in Kenya, but there has been a general shift in urban centers for populations consuming more plant-based protein versus animal-based protein. Getting better produce from the farmers and bigger volumes has allowed us to be able to package more and distribute in urban centers, cleaned, processed, packaged green grams. Having CRAFT come on board was one, train the farmers on the power of using one particular variety in a farm. That means your product is more cleaner, it's better. Number two, through the trainings on good agricultural practices, then they are able to, whereas before they would get in an acre like 2 bags of 90 kilograms, now they're able to produce between 3 and 4 bags of 90 kilograms. Some of the benefits you've had both for the small-scale farmers as well as Topical Ventures is the small-scale farmers have had access to training that allows them to practice the use of certified seeds, water conservation, as well as the use of mechanization for post-harvest handling. At Topical Ventures, we are able to uptake more volumes from the small-scale farmers we are working with, and it has allowed us to access a bigger portion of the urban market that is consuming plant protein.
In Kenya, CRAFT executes its interventions in the common bean, green gram, sorghum, and potato value chains by providing climate-smart solutions such as improved seed varieties, soil and water conservation measures, post-harvest handling technologies, mechanization services, and weather information services.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Marika. And also the video was a great way to end your very informative presentation. It's now a pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Paula Almiron from EIT Food. She is a social scientist who specializes in food systems, consumer research, and integrated marketing communications. Dr. Paula is the Partnership and Funding Manager at EIT Food Northwest, responsible for Iceland, Ireland, and the UK geographies. She leads strategic collaboration and entrepreneurship in food systems, connecting individuals and organizations to produce advanced innovation. Paula strengthens stakeholder engagement with funding schemes and like-minded institutions. She also trains partners, entrepreneurs, and food system students to increase their success. She's advised the public sector on innovative policies, such as the Buenos Aires city government in Argentina and the social services sector of San Sebastian City Council in Spain. Her background includes academia, where she's worked as an associate professor and researcher in areas like marketing, e-commerce, communication, and negotiation. We're looking forward to hearing from you, Paula. And hi, everyone. I'm Christine.
Hello, good morning, Christine, and hello, audience. Thank you for the introduction. So my name is Paula Almiron. I'm the Partnership and Funding Manager at EIT Food Northwest. It's a pleasure to be here and to have the opportunity to introduce our organization to all the audience. So we're going to start now, okay? So today we're going to divide our presentation in 3 stages. The first part is a guide to EIT Food. We are going to make a short presentation of who we are. Then we are going to introduce the partnership model, the new partnership model that we are going to launch in 2023. And then we are going to present some calls and opportunities that are coming up or are ongoing. Okay. Okay, so EIT Food is the largest organization that works for food innovation in the world. We are not only the biggest and the largest in Europe, but also we have an impact globally. Our mission is to create a world where everybody can access and enjoy sustainable, safe, and healthy food with trust and fairness from farm to fork. And our strength comes from our partners, from our community, which represent over 85 of Europe leading agri-food companies, research institutes, and universities. We are part of EIT, that's the European Institute of Technology and Innovation. And EIT Food is just part of this big family of specific EIT's branches. So for example, you can have EIT Digital, EIT Health, EIT Climate. We're just one part of this whole ecosystem of innovation and technology. We work in 3 missions, and these 3 missions cover the whole food system. One is healthier life through food. Then we have net zero food systems. And finally, we have a fully transparent, resilient, and fair food system. Our activities operate in 4 pillars. We have an education area, an innovation area, entrepreneurship, and public engagement. In the education pillar, we work with courses that go from courses that are targeted to the general public to PhD studies, master's studies, and any expert courses that are in the fields of our missions. We have an innovation area that works on specific calls and general calls. We're going to see that in a minute. And then we have entrepreneurship programs that cover all the stages of the development of a startup. Finally, we have a public engagement area that engages with the general public and also produces content that is highly valuable as food unfolded. So let's go to the next slide. So this is our community, is quite broad. So we have industry partners, we have research centers and universities, and of course we have startups that are the ones that bring technologies and innovation that are going to fit the whole system. Um, let's go to our vision. So as Christina said, I'm part of EIT Food Northwest. That's the regional office that operates for the UK geographies, but also for Iceland and Ireland. These are some of our partners. As you can see, we have leading industry companies, and we also have universities, research centers, and startups that are being heard in the whole system. So let's go a little bit to our partnership model. So at the moment, we are transitioning to a new partnership model that operates in two categories plus another type of membership that is not actually uh, to a partnership type, but is a membership. I will explain that in a little bit. So we have two partnership categories. One is the strategic partners, and the other one are delivery partners. So strategic partners have an input and influence in the strategy of EIT Food and the whole food system ecosystem in Europe. We also support these strategic partners to develop their strategy in their own organizations. So it's a two-way forward. Um, so these strategic partners are not only focused on working in the community, but they want to have their voice heard in key councils, in key boards. If we go to the delivery partners are the ones that are going to address that are going to inform and address the strategy that the strategic partners and the the whole EIT food community is developing. And the community members are organizations that are like-minded to us and they want to engage with us, but with a different type of engagement. They want to be in the community, be part of some of the events, and cross-post some of our content, but they are not going to deliver projects or any of the activities or programs that we develop. That's not the main objective that they have when they join our community. Let me explain that a little bit better. So if we have to summarize this, the strategic partners develop the strategy conjointly with EIT Food. The delivery partners inform that strategy through activities, delivering projects. And then we have the community partners that disseminate our content, and we also disseminate the content that is related to our missions. The community partners are open for opportunities, are open to participate in calls and also in different programs, but that's not the main objective. Um, the delivery partners are mainly focused on the network, but also in the activities and the projects that they have to develop, and they are involved in bids and consortia. And finally, the strategic partners promote the strategy inside EIT Food, but also outside of EIT Food, and also work to create new opportunities, new funding options, new to connect our organization with funding sources so we can amplify the cake of funding sources for our community and for our missions. So let's go a little bit to our goals and opportunities. I'm going to mention three goals and programs that we have at the moment. We have more, but I think that these are the most important ones, or perhaps some of them are more related with the audience today. So that's why I selected these three. So the first one is the 2023 Open Call for Innovation. This is a flagship program that we have, and it is led by the innovation area. So this is a general call that covers the three missions that EIT Food is working on. So the projects start in 2023. These are projects that are going to be funded for a maximum of 24 months, and we need at least 3 eligible organizations from 2 eligible countries. And this is a point that perhaps you may have some questions, because when we talk about EIT Food, we talk about organizations that are based in countries that are part of Horizon Europe or are associated to Horizon Europe. However, some countries that are not yet associated or are not associated at all, I mean, we some of them is it not, it's not clear at the moment if they will be associated or not. They can participate in the call, however they are not going to be funded. For example, at the moment and for 2023, the UK government is providing the UK guarantee scheme. So if you participate in a project that is funded by EIT Food, you're not going to receive the funding through EIT Food. But if you're successful with your application, the UK guarantee scheme is going to respond for that amount of funding. So when we talk about eligible countries, you have to consider the ones that are associated to Horizon Europe. For example, if you select 2 countries and one of them is the UK, you might need to add an additional country. The KPIs that we have to consider are the first one is that it needs to be it needs to be near to market. It needs to be commercially viable, and it needs to respond to one of EIT Food specific challenges. And at the end of the project, it should have a sales revenue of at least 10,000 euros. So which are the principles? We need to develop innovative products, processes, and services that address a specific business opportunity. And it needs to have a clear commercialization strategy, a close cooperation with clients, citizens, and users, and it needs to have a financial return and a contribution that responds to this financial sustainability that we were talking before. The co-founded is going the co-founded required is 30%. So if you include a country that is not eligible for funding under the Horizon Europe scheme, that means that that country, the funding that that country is going to receive outside of EIT Food is going to be considered co-funding. And of course, we need to implement communication, dissemination, and exploitation plans, because we need to engage with our consumers and our citizens. We need to let them know what we're doing with their tax money. So the scope of the call are our 6 focus areas. You can see them here. So it's quite broad. Let's move on to the timeline. So this call has been launched in August, and we are working now for the second window that is going to close in mid-April. Okay, so let's go a little bit to our entrepreneurship programs. So we have 3 levels or 3 stages that are covered in our entrepreneurship programs. The first one is the seedbed incubator, and the seedbed incubator is targeted mainly to teams at universities, research teams that have an idea that can be landed to the market, and they want to further develop that idea. They want to receive some mentoring. They want to see if they have entrepreneurship abilities or if they can develop those skills. So this is the program. We have also the Food Accelerator Network. This is for companies that need to accelerate their proposal. Perhaps they need to further develop their business plan or understand better their consumers or clients, or think about a better marketing proposal. And then we have the rising food stars. These are companies that already have revenue, but they need to refine their product, their service to let's say connect better with their consumers or clients. So they receive mentoring. They get connected with key investors in the sector. They participate in events. They are showcased in different events, online, face to face. So it's very interesting for these companies, and of course, all of them, when they are part of our programs that are, they go through a selection, a competitive selection. They get the badge that are supported by EIT Food, and this is quite important for their development. Let's move on to the next one. So these are some of our partners that are involved in the program. So you see some industry partners, but also there is an investors community that is also there, especially at the Rising Food Stars level. And of course, we have some universities and research centers that supports our programs. So finally, I would like to go to the Higher Education Initiative. And this is a program that is very interesting because the funding is 100%. We are not requiring a co-funding part in this call. So the Higher Education Initiative looks to create a systemic impact by engaging 500 or more higher education institutions, and they would like to promote these higher education institutions to become engines of innovation for the realization of a green, digital, and inclusive society. They would like to do this through the strengthening of the entrepreneurial innovation capacity of higher education institutions, and also to integrate these higher education institutions into innovation ecosystems. So the key elements is that the call has already been launched on the 8th of November, and is closing at the end of February. The funding period will be for 15 months, from May 2023 to July 2024. And the main topic of this call is deep tech. Okay, so if you're interested in any of these programs, if you have heard of any other programs calls, just contact me if you would like to learn more, or if you would like to have a conversation about how to become a partner. Please keep in mind that you can participate in our programs even in the case that you may or you may not be a partner. We are an open innovation network, so you don't have to be a partner to participate in these calls, but it's very important to be part of the network, to connect with other organizations. So that's a value that you have when you are a partner. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I think I'm on time.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So many opportunities available through EIT. It's now an absolute pleasure to introduce, our convener today, Dr. Ifi Kanu, who holds a PhD in environmental engineering with research interest in the use of artificial intelligence to optimize anaerobic processes. Dr. Kanu loves nature, and she is passionate about engineering solutions to address environmental and societal challenges. She is leading IntelliDigest on a mission to empower global food sustainability and to eliminate food waste to achieve zero hunger. She's an enterprise fellow at the Royal Academy of Engineering and Royal Society of Edinburgh. She is a fellow at the Royal Society of Arts and an associate fellow of the UK Higher Education. She's also a champion of the STFC Food Network. Over to you, Ify.
Thank you so much, Christine, for the introduction, and very pleased to have you here. You do great work through the TFF and really helping people engage with the food system. So really appreciate what you're doing within the food system and being here with us today. Thank you, Christine Gold. Just to take on, did you want to share the slide, please? Great. We're talking about financing a sustainable food system today, and it's really important for us to understand that this is very much connected to the fact that we are recognizing the International Day of Banks as well as also the World Soy Day. Now, why are we talking about a sustainable food system? Next slide, please. It's very important for us to understand why discussing a sustainable food system is really crucial to be addressed now, because we are facing a lot of challenges within the food system. How are we engaging with food today? What is our relationship with food today? Next slide, please. Over 1.3 billion tons of food currently go to waste. And this is just looking at post-farm gate. When we talk about the pre-farm gate, where we get a food loss, that is also massive, which simply means that most of the food we create today do not get to the people that need to eat it. And that's why we have so much waste, either as food loss or actual food waste. Next slide. Now, also, the way we grow food, the way we distribute food, and the way we consume food today actually results over 30% of global greenhouse gas emission. That is over 13.3 million tons of food of greenhouse gas emission, very much attributed to agri-food production. And this is really where we need to do a lot of work to really engage with people across the food system from farm to fork, so everyone could actually help to address this challenge of how we grow food, how we distribute food, and how we consume food. Next slide, please. Over 5 billion hectares of land is currently degraded globally. That is 1/3 of land is gone through very serious degradation just because of a lot of activities we engage within the agri-food sector. It could be in the form of deforestation, it could be in the form of the way we use the land for as monocropping, or also because of different climate changes resulting from how we currently grow food today. Next slide, please. Now, also over 1.9 billion people are currently obese globally, and the challenge with this is the follow-on health issues that arise from this level of obesity, and also the fact that these people also have a very high risk of going through very serious health issues, which then do have a lot of impact on our health system. The cost of maintaining our health system then comes back to the way we engage with food, what we eat, where the food we eat come from, and also how we engage with it. Also, very important is the fact that over 900 million people are hungry. As much as we talk about obesity, we also have issues around undernutrition, malnutrition. So really being able to tackle these problems are very important, and this is where food sustainability comes in. Next slide, please. 1 in 5 deaths. This is very much linked to the kind of food we eat. This is the statistics that is not very clear to a lot of people, and I think we need to talk more about this, because then it gets more clear to us why as individuals we need to get involved to help achieve a sustainable food system. Next slide, please. So how can we address these food system challenges? Like I mentioned in my conversation, it really cuts across the whole entire chain. By taking one aspect of the food system to deal with it means that we work in isolation, and that's not what we want to do. We want to take a holistic view and a holistic approach to solving the food system challenges. And for us to do that, we need to start off from where the food comes from. So we've had an important or interesting conversation with a local food producer to give us an insight what it's like, engaging with food production and what they're doing to ensure that they can evolve more sustainable food system. I'll be introducing you to a conversation we had with a free company.
I'm Angus. I am fourth generation farmer based here at Cockdono Farm just outside Edinburgh. I guess growing up always was, helped out on the farm and really enjoyed being here, helping my dad out. We used to be primarily a dairy farm, but also growing up here, both my parents were very keen that me and my siblings got away from the farm, and that they were convinced there was not a future here for farming, and that we should get away and do something else. And so when I left school, I got away and I lived abroad and worked abroad. And then I ended up coming home for Christmas in 2016 to discover that the family farm was being sold. And initially it was a bit of a shock, but after some long conversations and some, frankly, arguments and debates with my siblings and parents, we basically decided that it was a real shame to be selling the farm, and maybe there was an option for us to try and create something to hold on to it. And so myself and a couple of friends and my brother established the Free Company, and we created a 10-year lease of some of the old buildings here on the farm. And we took on a bit of ground. It was only about 10 acres at the time, but basically the idea was to try and keep the farm and to try and keep the farm going. So I in a way I kind of got into what I'm doing, not because I had this grand plan and because I love farming, but because I really didn't want to see the family farm go, and I felt a deep connection to this place, and I felt like there was a sense of responsibility here to preserve it and keep the family farm running. I feel like it's strange to hear it, but it feels like many ways what we've created here was born more out of necessity than having this like grand plan, and that was a necessity to want to just preserve the farm here and to keep it running. So the Free Company was founded in 2017 with a couple of friends of mine and my brother, and essentially the simple idea is that we wanted to grow our menu. So we're a seasonal restaurant here. We're open from March until Christmas time, with 3 seasons that we basically open up in. It's a spring series, summer series, and a winter series. And the idea is that the entire menu is grown here on the farm, from all our vegetables, some fruits, some soft fruits, and then some livestock as well. So we've got about 5 acres of market garden. We've got a flock of sheep, some cows, and also a flock of pigs as well, herd of pigs. And we're basically now somewhat of a fine dining restaurant. We serve 7 courses. It's a set menu. It didn't start this way, but we realized that to kind of celebrate the amazing wide variety of produce that we can grow here, kind of a taster menu made more sense. So we're only open in the evenings, and we host about 80 covers a night, 4 days a week. And I guess the farming side of things, we are organic in conversion and farm everything under regenerative principles. And this is something that I guess is quite different from previous generations. Prior to the started, the farm was run as a conventional dairy farm. And we really wanted to, or we really believed that actually for sustainability reasons and just for the future of the farm, actually conventional agriculture didn't really fit very well with what Charlie and I wanted here. And so everything is about kind of minimal inputs and working more with nature rather than trying to oppress it. The last few years have presented a variety of different challenges. we set up the restaurant in an effort to create a business model that could support the farm, because the farm was unable to support itself. And for 2 years, we had, it was working really well. And then we were confronted with the pandemic, and we quickly realized that we would have to create a different model and work out a way for the farm to support itself, or maybe the farm to support the restaurant. And so it did actually. I mean, obviously the pandemic was incredibly stressful and challenging, but there are some silver linings to it for us, and that was that we were basically allowed us to really spend some focus time on the farm and developing a new kind of farming model here. And that's where we established the 5-acre market garden over to the east. And that's now in its 3rd season, and we're at a place where it's supporting 5 full-time jobs annually, and we've got a wholesale business that's completely separate from the restaurant. So the vast majority of what we grow here is sold into Edinburgh and Glasgow, sold into restaurants and also small farm shops and supermarkets, along with a veg box scheme. And then obviously the cream of the crop ends up in their own restaurant. So yeah, I mean, really what I'm saying is that there are two businesses here, and that the pandemic allowed us to be able to spread our ducks rather than having all our eggs in one basket. So I guess that was a challenge, and that was kind of a part of the way that we worked out to help get through that. Other challenges that we've been facing, and particularly this year, is regarding like sales. We're at a position right now where we're almost producing more food than we can sell, and this is unfortunately due to a looming recession. A lot of our box scheme, that's one of the large parts of what we do here. A lot of our customers, like so many people, have had no other option but to tighten their belts, and unfortunately local organic produce is something that they cut out of their budget. And it makes sense. I understand that we've got to make cuts and squeezes, but it's unfortunate reality to the situation. Yeah, we've definitely had to make some adjustments this year to our growing plan, and just to try and be as canny as possible, because it looks like the next years ahead are going to be tough, and the last thing we want to do is to stop doing what we're doing. So we've had to kind of downscale slightly, and just play it carefully and not be wasteful. So that's definitely one of the present challenges that we're facing right now.
Hello. Well, I hope the presentation and discussion by the Free Company, thanks to Angus, one of the founders of the Free company that made out time to have a discussion with us, was very useful to give you an insight to what they're doing at Free company. It's really exciting to learn about what they're doing and how they're really trying to ensure that even within the city of Edinburgh, that we can grow food sustainably. And this is really important because we need to see more of young people who are really very keen to engage with the food system. So that's a very important thing, that also these young people could be supported and be enabled to drive this change. So I think one of the key things we do at Interlead Digest is to provide the Global Agri-Food Techpreneur Program, working with young graduates to engage with the food system. We're very proud to be supported by Royal Bank of Scotland and also the STFC Food Network. And currently, the Scottish Edge competition, which is a very competitive program in Scotland that support young people, not just young people, many people and many entrepreneurs to engage and help to ensure that businesses thrive. So through the Agri-Food Techpreneur program, the young graduates who are currently based in Scotland could participate in that Scottish Edge program because they have taken part in Global Agri-Food Techpreneur. So these are the key supporters we're working with at this moment. And we also engaging widely with different banks, local banks across the globe, to engage with those and support the Agri-Food Techpreneurs from their country, because what we're doing is very much country focused. We're working across the globe, looking at supporting young graduates to engage with the food system, because if we need to transform the food system, we need to make sure that we can do that in a very sustainable way. And we believe that by providing the right knowledge, the right skill set, enabling these young people to understand what is needed to drive a sustainable food system, they'll drive so much impact within the food system. But also by engaging with these local banks, we can enable the young graduates to have access to finances, and mostly sustainable finances, to be able to deliver on the knowledge that they've learned and also the business models they must have developed through the Global Agri-Food Techpreneur Program. Now, also in terms of infrastructure, we're also going to be supporting these young graduates by working with universities to access research centers and where necessary for the different projects they're working on, to engage in collaboration to do that, as well as also setting out agri-food hubs in different regions for them to be able to engage with these agri-food hubs. Very important to the Global Agri-Food Techpreneur Program is really building this ecosystem and enabling young graduates to be able to drive change within the food system. So we're really very passionate about what we're doing at Interlead Digest through the Global Agri-Food Techpreneur, and for all the support we get from the different partners who've worked with us to make this a success. We've done this last year. We had very positive feedback from those who engage with us. We continue to evolve it and develop it. This year, we'll set a target to engage with at least 1,000 young graduates across the world. So if you are participating in this webinar today, we will appreciate if you can help us to get this message out there to say to young people, we don't need to complain about the problem anymore. We can be part of the change, and we can not just be part of the change, we can actually lead the food system transformation. This is kind of a call out to agri-food techpreneurs. It's a very useful opportunity to acquire knowledge, to be able to understand that you can lead as an entrepreneur, you can drive changes in the food system. But also, we do have other ways we support the agri-food techpreneurs through the various network that we have, by also promoting what they're doing and also providing the World Food Tracker for them to use as they commercialize their solution. So there's a lot of benefit which we do provide for the agri-food techpreneurs, and all these also puts them in a positive position to be able to source the right finance to be able to drive their business forward. So it's really an exciting time at the same time. The next call is in February. So if you're listening to this webinar, please do make out time to look into the application and then put in an application for the Global Agri-Food Techpreneur Program. free. We're setting up exciting opportunities for you that will really help you and empower you to drive change within the food system. We need to grow food sustainably. We need to stop destroying the ecosystem. We need to stop depleting our soil nutrients. We need to ensure that more people have access to good food. When we say food, not just food, but good food. And how we can do that is really engaging in a way that we can grow food sustainably. Ensure we use the right nutrients, we grow diversify crops, we encourage people and engage with the wider community to be able to take on this good food and make it something that really helps them by improving their health and also ensuring that the food we eat do not have a negative impact on the environment. We are very much actively engaging with international organizations like the UNEP, the World Food Program, the UNDP, UNCDF, Food and Agriculture Organization, and also UNFCCC to work and see how we can really help to evolve a sustainable food system. And by working also how we can take a regional focus to funding, especially mostly these agri-food techpreneurs as they come out of the program and empower them to do great things for the society. At Intelli Digest, we are on a mission to empower global food sustainability through technology innovation and capacity building. And by supporting these global agri-food techpreneurs, we will be enabling them to drive this change and help in leading the food system transformation. We are in the decade of action. Whatever we do up to the year 2030 is really critical to evolve a better system, to build a world that works for us and also support the ecosystem. So for us to do that, we're so pleased to be recognizing the World Soil Day today and the International Day of Banks. And part of our own commitment to this is also launching introducing the Plant to Save campaign once again, which will enable more people to engage with the food system. And we just kind of making a call to everyone that, to be able to share this information, and not just that sharing the information for the purpose of sharing it across your social media platform, but you're also getting a certificate at the end of that to show that you have really done something tangible to support and enable a sustainable food system. So I will introduce us to Well, thank you very much. And I think this is the end of my presentation, but that is really a call to action here. We need to do something right now. Over 1/3 of global land is degraded. That's over 5 billion hectares of land. And also we know that over 12% of food production is being provided by smallholder farmers, and they're able to feed over 12 billion people globally. We really need to support these smallholder farmers. We need to ensure that we grow food locally and we grow food that help to improve the health of people with less impact on the environment. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thanks, Christine, for taking over for the Q&A.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Ify, for that amazing presentation and overview of the important work that you're doing, especially around empowering the young graduates to get involved in taking action. So indeed, I'm going to ask all of our speakers some questions. I guess they're all going to come back. Marika and Paula, if you're there. And I do apologize, everyone, for my voice. I got sick this weekend, but it's not the dreaded COVID, just some winter flu. But yeah, I think that it was, very enlightening to hear all of you present many opportunities that are at our footsteps, actually, to address the prevailing food challenges that our world faces. So there are opportunities. There are big challenges to solve, but one of the things to be able to link those opportunities with the challenges is financing. And so I wanted to ask each of you to reflect a little bit about what you see are the biggest challenges to really financing the food sustainability solutions. And, you know, some of you presented solutions, and, you know, Paula, you presented funding opportunities, but how do you bridge that? You know, because getting EIT funding isn't easy and straightforward for the most part. So yeah, tell us a little bit about some of the, you know, biggest challenges and opportunities you see specifically around funding.
So in our case, I think that it's very, very important to connect with other organizations in order to build a team, a consortia, and then to submit an application. So if you are new to the community, it's good to make a team or build a team with people that have already submitted an application and that can share that knowledge with you. One of the things that I think that are quite important in EIT Food is that in each of the applications that we receive at the innovation call, we are required to have two parts of what we call the knowledge triangle. The knowledge triangle is formed by three different actors. One are universities, the other are research centers, and the third one is the industry. So it's a good mix. So you have to have two of those three, and that helps. But it requires work to apply for funding. So it's something that you need to, let's say, consider that in your costs. So you have to, yeah, you have to accept that when we are preparing an application.
It's cost and it's time, right? But do you have any like tips and tricks for people who might be thinking about applying? And I saw too that Christian asked about specifically, like, are there EIT funding opportunities for example, innovators in Africa?
We don't have programs that are covering Africa at the moment. We work with countries that are part of Horizon Europe, but most of the technologies and innovation that we produce in our calls can be implemented in other countries. I mean, globally.
And what about some fast tips and tricks before I take it to Afi and Marika? Paula, do you have any like tips and tricks about how to get that EU funding in the application?
Oh, okay. So I would say that the main thing for me, or at least in my opinion, is to network, to connect with other organizations, to go to the events, to try to, I mean, you can go to our website and see which are our current partners. You can go to our events and see which are the other people that want to work in the space that you are in or that you would like to be part of. And that's the main thing, because you have to build a team that is based on trust. So you need to meet the people, and when you have the team, then you can submit a proposal. And of course, you can connect with us. So if you would like to talk with somebody at the innovation area or in the entrepreneurship area, just come back to me, and I will try to do my best to connect you with them.
Awesome. And like that, yeah, get through the process is any hand holding can be big help. What about you, Marika? What like ideas do you have about bridging that funding challenge that we all face when we want to bring forward the opportunities that we see?
Well, I think what's important is also to look at how can you make a systemic change. No, for example, we all do like where is grant mechanism a good mechanism, but where is it really? Where can it be taken over by the real system? The real market, as we say, now, considering the role of agri-SMEs in food systems, especially in Africa, and I think, Ivy, you also alluded to this in your presentation, there's quite some work that needs to be done also with the financial institutions to understand really what the challenges and what the and the opportunities are. And so on one hand, we need to work with the agro SMEs, because also there is a lack of understanding, like if in our case specifically around climate change. How can you invest in climate adaptation in a sustainable way? But also the financial institutions, they need to have the capacity to understand the risks. That's, for example, what we try to do. Make people understand what are the risks that they're working through. So I think there's a mix between both. And I think networking is the solution, because we're all in the same. Like even this morning, I was at somewhere in a meeting, and they're like, "Oh God, yeah, we're also having challenge," or not saying we're having challenges. We're also learning. I think we're all learning. And even if we look at the COP27, where finally food systems was part of the discussion, but then there was this whole discussion, but okay, food systems is part of this whole discussion, but how are we going to finance it? So linking to different initiatives is very important, so that we learn from each other, because we can't expect that grant mechanisms will always exist, and we can also not expect that the local systems are good enough for now.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, and that both of you emphasize the power of networking. And that's also advice I give in my work every day to entrepreneurs around the world. Your network is your net worth. And so even like, don't approach these relationships transactionally. Just talk to everyone and anyone. You never know when that can pay off, literally. I think it's really important to keep that open connectivity. And so, Ify, in the presentation you gave, we heard from a farmer in Scotland who said, all is well and good until we get into an economic crisis. And then people, and as he said, he understandably so, stop using their purchasing power to support the kind of transformative farming that he's doing, because it's more expensive. So what do we do?
Yeah, very good point, and really pleased that you were able to capture that from that conversation we had with Angus. So yes, this is why really engaging with the food system entirely from farm to fork is important, because we, the consumers, we've got a critical role to play. But also, I think it's really important that we understand the position where we are and how it's really vital that we make a change within the food system. And unless we get to that point where everyone has come to an acceptance that, okay, we can't continue the way we're doing things at the moment, we need to make this drastic change, and we take it as an imperative on us to make sure that we can enable that to work, whether you are a consumer, whether you are a food distributor, whether you are a food processor, whether you're a food retailer, hotels, restaurants, hospitals, schools. Everyone has got a role to play. Now, if you bring it down, so if I do answer your question, yes, all of us got a role to play. With the case of the challenge that Angus did highlight, they had consumers who were really understanding the challenge and trying to make a change, but in the face of economic crisis, they had to step back. So now, how do we then, make it really possible for these consumers to continue doing what they thought is right to do? I think one of the key things is to enable more of Angus to exist. So if we have more of Angus who are doing the right thing, and we'll have the key food players who are supporting more of Angus to do the right thing, then there's greater tendency that the cost of this local food production is going to come down, because these local food producers will get more support and they'll face less competition in terms of having cheaper, low quality food, which is an alternative for them that they can always fall back to. So I think it's an ecosystem thing. So it's not something that can be achieved in isolation. And when these things start to happen, then the more opportunity for these local food producers to access the right finance, because then they can demonstrate that what they're doing is financially feasible, which simply means that they can get more funding. Thank you.
I mean, I think that's such, an exciting point. I mean, we all have a role to play. And during these times of economic downturn, I think austerity is, of course, like an important reaction, but not when it comes to transformation. Indeed, this is the exact time we need to be investing, you know, our own resources and government resources in driving the change, because this has the long-term impact we're looking for. And, you know, as we're looking at like the true cost of food, which isn't accounted for in the food prices that we see at supermarkets, you know, it's important to see that like we might be saving money now, but the long-term consequences for our health and environment are, you know, going to be paid at some stage. So I've been personally excited too by some of the new market mechanisms that are emerging. For example, in the US, I've seen insurance premiums decreasing by, you know, people who are buying more locally produced, sustainably produced organic produce. I've also seen some stuff around carbon markets, which farmers themselves can be tapping into as another income stream to, you know, support their regenerative practices. So I think these are also places we can be looking to besides just, for example, consumers having to foot the bill during hard times. So I wanted to ask you all, like one, I guess we have time for like about one more question before we'll go to a break. But what do you think are the most critical challenge that we must all face if we want to effectively take on the soil degradation challenge and the fact that the food that we're producing has lower nutritional quality, you know, as a result of the soil degradation and climate change?
Who goes first?
Well, how about you?
So can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, I just want to understand, like, what are the most critical challenges that we need to take on with specific, you know, view on the soil degradation challenge and how that links to the food that we're producing being lower in nutritional quality. So what do we need to do to tackle soil degradation and low quality of nutrition in the food that we're eating? What are our priorities right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a little bit different on what type of food are we talking about. Are we talking like massive food staple crop, or are we talking about more like horticulture crops and that kind of where actually like in the high value crops it invests. The investment now is a return on investment, but if you look at like some of the food crops, they're actually informal market, low value, so the investment is also will not pay you back. So I think there are different ways of making smallholder farmers. Well, in the case that we work in Africa, smallholder farmers more aware of the needs of the soil and how can they play around with is it regenerative agriculture or farming systems that you blend your different crops so that you actually have a sustainable way of producing. And I actually think, and that's what we also work on, is that the agribusinesses that work with those farmers have a role to play, even though if you're working on one specific value chain, but you know that your suppliers also have other crops that they work on. Now, make sure that you give them advice around the whole farming system and not only that specific, is it sorghum, is it potato? No, how can the potato value chain, how can that or the production be a system of different crops that make it sustainable? Yeah.
Systems are the answer across all of the
I know.
ways, be it financing, be it crop production. And I think linked to the point that you were just making, and the question around, soil degradation is like something that many are talking about in the chat, which is around sustainable fertilizers and, kind of biologicals. So Ify, I don't know if you have some commentary on that, specifically on biologicals, or just in general, what we can do about combating soil degradation and improving the nutritional quality of the foods that we eat.
Absolutely. With 30% of greenhouse gas emission being attributed to the way we grow food, distribute, and consume food today, there is really a demand that we do something to improve on that. And also 1/3 of the world soil being degraded. So how do we do that? How can we improve on that? First of all, we need to move away from determining production or quality of production, or evaluating the value the land provides for us based on quantity of produce, but move more to quality. There are a lot of things that this will change. It is also going to change the mindset of the consumer by moving away from the cosmetic look of food, but looking at the nutritional value in food. So when you are going to shop, you're not thinking about a piece of carrot because of how it looks. You're thinking about, oh, this piece of carrot is going to give me this amount of nutrient in my body, and that's why I need to buy it. And that will remove all the issues we have about wanky foods, which is really reducing the value of produce for the farmer. So that means the farmer can get a better value even if the food is not having the perfect shape. So there's a lot we can do around that thinking. And I think the government across the world is doing a lot at the moment. UK government is trying to retire farmers because they all understand the fact that the farmers, they have done this for years, and they believe that that's the way they have to do it. So if we need to achieve this transformation, we need to bring in new people with a new mindset who are able to take on this new way of doing things, or have farmers who are willing to make a change. So where we don't have those farmers that are willing to make a change, how do we then help them to retire nicely, pay them back for all the good work they've done already, but really bring in new people who can take on these new sustainable farming practices. So that is really something that is happening now. And I think that will go a long way to really changing the ecosystem and enabling young, especially as we deal with young graduates, engaging them in the food system, young people who are going to take on this like Angus, and really ensure that we can have sustainable food system going forward. So I think that is also taking place in Netherlands, not just in the UK, but across the world. Government are responding and seeing the need. And it's really important at this point to bring in the UN Food System Summit. So they've got the Alliance on local resilient food supply chain, which Intelli Digest is pleased to be part of, supporting that alliance. And that alliance is focused on enabling local food production, and also making sure they'll have a resilient food supply chain that is very sustainable. So I think not just the government, not just the member state, but also the UN is seeing the need that we have this kind of an alliance that drives those change. So I think there's a lot going on. And I think with all these activities going on, the work we're doing with the young graduates and engaging them with enabling in a sustainable food system, we will see the transformation taking place in the years to come.
I'm loving everything that you've said. And Christian pointed out too, that there's this new mindset where we can move away from just a focus on calories to a focus on delivering nutrition and sustainability in our food system. And actually we have a lot of agency as, human beings with our creativity and intelligence to design a new food system that can deliver towards these goals. Paula, I'm going to end with the same question to you. Europe has experienced the worst drought in 500 years. I was just reading it's the highest temperatures on record that we're experiencing right now in this winter. What do we do about the soil degradation and the farming sector and the crop productivity? What can we be investing in here in Europe?
I think that we can also consider what we call controlled environments in agriculture. This is a fancy way of calling sophisticated greenhouses and systems also that are not greenhouses but incorporate sensors and more technology in the production of food. This is quite developed in Iceland. That's one of the countries that is a part of our region. And this year we launched a report on controlled environments in agriculture and also some tips for new entrants. We can share that with the audience later. And it's very interesting how countries like Iceland that have so many constraints, they can use some of the assets that they have, like geothermal energy, to use that energy to have these greenhouses and or control environments in agriculture functioning. So I think that there are other options, and we have to think about not only about soil but other environments that can also provide food for all.
Love that. And I agree that there's so many options that we need to be looking at. And CEA is such an exciting space that can really optimize, kind of everything that we need. And you rightly said the energy equation is part of the challenges that need to be solved, to really unleash the potential of CEA. And hopefully we'll see more and more come from Europe in leadership there. So with that, I believe we have a break now. Is that right, Effie?
Yep.
So we will invite everyone to take a short break of about 10 minutes, and we will come back to hear from Lorenzo Conti of Crover. Thanks, everyone.
The future starts in the present. The Global Agri-Food Techpreneur program is now open again, and we are inviting you to join us in empowering a sustainable food system. But why? Because food sustainability is a major global issue, with obesity, hunger, malnutrition, and food wastage affecting millions of people. It is time for change. We are looking for young, ambitious future leaders who understand the challenge of food sustainability in their country and are passionate about finding a solution to it. Are you a young graduate? With us, you can enhance your skills in technology, food system sustainability, and entrepreneurship, so you can contribute to the establishment of more local food production and be a role model for the younger generation when it comes to food sustainability. Hear what previous participants can say about the program.
Hi, my name is Caleb Abugede. I am the CEO of Kelvin Caleb Agro Allied Farm. We really suggest that everyone should take advantage of this wonderful innovation that is happening.
My name is Olumide Esan. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Olumide Esan Multiventures, Oyo, Nigeria. The courses are inspiring, they are eye-opening, and they are motivating. While taking the courses, it increased my level of confidence and enabled me to believe in the reality and the beauty of my dreams.
I am Sushil Shalke. I am the founder of AgriFood Tech Private Limited, previously known as S4 Foods. I will definitely recommend this program. Firstly, coming from the tech pioneers from Europe, a lot of case studies that are global case studies. We get to learn different things.
We are so excited to work with you to empower global food sustainability. So are you ready to make a difference? The future starts with you. Today's food systems are complex, leading to a series of sustainability challenges affecting millions of people, like food waste, unsafe food, food insecurity, malnutrition, and obesity. So are you ready to take direct action? If so, then the Food System Sustainability Program might be just for you. It includes online masterclasses where you can learn about new trends and tools, monthly mastermind sessions where you meet and solve challenges with others, and the Food Industry Sustainability Index, with which you can check your sustainability profile so you can take positive action. Become a member today. Today's food systems are complex, leading to a series of sustainability challenges affecting millions of people, like food waste, unsafe food, food insecurity, malnutrition, and obesity. So are you ready to take direct action? If so, then the Food System Sustainability Program might be just for you. It includes online masterclasses where you can learn about new trends and tools, monthly mastermind sessions where you meet and solve challenges with others, and the Food Industry Sustainability Index, with which you can check your sustainability profile so you can take positive action. Become a member today. Today's food systems are complex, leading to a series of sustainability challenges affecting millions of people, like food waste, unsafe food, food insecurity, malnutrition, and obesity. So are you ready to take direct action? If so, then the Food System Sustainability Program might be just for you. It includes online masterclasses where you can learn about new trends and tools, monthly mastermind sessions where you meet and solve challenges with others, and the Food Industry Sustainability Index, with which you can check your sustainability profile so you can take positive action. Become a member today. The future starts in the present. The Global Agri-Food Techpreneur program is now open again, and we are inviting you to join us in empowering a sustainable food system. But why? Because food sustainability is a major global issue, with obesity, hunger, malnutrition, and food wastage affecting millions of people. It is time for change. We are looking for young, ambitious future leaders who understand the challenge of food sustainability in their country and are passionate about finding a solution to it. Are you a young graduate? With us, you can enhance your skills in technology, food system sustainability, and entrepreneurship, so you can contribute to the establishment of more local food production and be a role model for the younger generation when it comes to food sustainability. Hear what previous participants can say about the program.
Hi, my name is Caleb Abugede. I am the CEO of Kelvin Caleb Agro Allied Farm. We really suggest that everyone should take advantage of this wonderful innovation that is happening.
My name is Olumide Esan. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Olumide Esan Multi Ventures, Oyo, Nigeria. The courses are inspiring, they are eye-opening, and they are motivating. While taking the courses, it increased my level of confidence and enabled me to believe in the reality and the beauty of my dreams.
I am Sushil Shelke. I am the founder of AgriFood Tech Private Limited, previously known as S4 Foods. I will definitely recommend this program. Firstly, coming from the tech pioneers from Europe, a lot of case studies that are global case studies. We get to learn different things.
We are so excited to work with you to empower global food sustainability. So are you ready to make a difference? The future starts with you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We're so excited to get started with the next section of our discussion today. And it's an absolute pleasure and delight to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Lorenzo Conti of Crover. He is the managing director and founder of Crover Limited, a Scotland-based startup that has developed the world's first subterranean drone, otherwise known as Crover. Lorenzo is an enterprise fellow at the Royal Academy of Engineering and holds a PhD in engineering from the University of Edinburgh, where he worked on granular theology, the study of how granular matter flows, and discovered the Crover effect. Crover's proprietary technology for locomotion in granular media enabled the development of the world's first device to be able to swim through bulk solids and powders like sand dunes, grain bulks, and chemical powders, and thus became the name of the Crover robot. While applications of the Crover range from soil sampling on Mars to the recovery of buried objects, Crover's first product is a system for the management of cereal grains stored in bulk, e.g. malting barley in sheds and silos. This helps grain storage operators identify critical conditions early and maintain the quality of their stock. Lorenzo, I'm so excited to hear more about Crover. Over to you.
Very nice introduction and delighted to be here. So as you mentioned, everything that we do at Crover is focused around that Crover robot. In the sense of a device that can swim through liquids and powders. So anything from sand dunes, think like the movie Dune of the worm going through sand to grain balls, which has been our focus so far. And the reason why we've been focused on grain storage is that it is still today the main bottleneck in the grain, in the midstream of the grain supply chain. It being the sole phase with the highest post-harvest losses before consumption. Now, when we're talking about the grain supply chain, a lot of people don't realize how complex it is and many things are involved. So here is a quick diagram of a typical grain supply chain, although it can vary in some situations. And when we talk about post-harvest, we kind of mostly mean that the midstream kind of dotted in there. And the bits highlighted in red is where storage usually happens. Although when you're transporting grain for periods of time, it must become similar to storage situation. For example, in cargo ships as well. And usually people make the distinction between on-farm storage, which is the bit to the left, which is where a farmer is storing their own produce on site, be it in sheds or silos, and off-farm storage, which is usually done in centralized sites, usually owned by the likes of cooperatives serving the farmers in the area, grain merchants, port operators, and processors sometimes as well. Now, when you're storing grain for long periods of time, the main issue is in maintaining the quality of the grain is that if the temperature and the moisture of the grain are too high, you can allow infestations like insects and molds to develop. So anything coming from the field will have some amount of biological entity in it, and if the conditions are not right, these things will start to grow and reproduce. So when people talk about integrated pest management in grain storage, it is mostly about maintaining the temperature and the moisture of the grain within safe ranges that hinder the growth of infestations. And if you maintain the grain in the right conditions, you can technically keep it forever. I mean, we see people maintaining grain in good quality for 2 years or longer if done right. Also, the way grain storage management is done at the moment is pretty labor intensive and is a big health and safety risk, as it usually requires people to physically walk on top of the grain bulks and take samples or their measurements with a hand spear down in different points within the bulk, with the risk of sinking into the grain bulk and being subject to severe injury or even death in some cases. Also, over the last years, and I'm delighted we had EIT Food earlier in the session. The European Union and a lot of other governments have been implementing measurements to push towards integrated pest management practice in grain storage as well, and more away towards heavy chemical fumigation of grain in storage. So by now, mostly only phosphines and CO2 are allowed as fumigants in grain storage. So we usually say that grain storage units are like black box at the moment. Like, you can measure fairly well what quality is going in and what quality is going out, so as grain is flowing effectively, if you've got the right technology in place. At the moment, there is no technology other than ours that can provide a clear map of conditions within the bulk of the grain while the grain is staying static in there. In fact, the main solutions available during storage can be divided in two main classes. We've got on the left that sampling and measurements that I was talking about earlier, bring a person to walk on the bulk and take measurements where they can reach. With also the problem that you only pick a few points, you won't be able to cover the entire bulk, and so the picture will usually be even less fine than what is shown on this picture here. And the more advanced solutions at the moment look that they're effectively static sensing solutions. So I guess you can call them IoT solutions in a way, as they are static sensors measuring conditions that are at one point or at a few points within the bulk. But because we're talking about pretty large grain, often 20 meters by 30 meters or more, if you have only the static solutions, you will usually not identify a problem in the early onset, but only once it's developed to a significant size, meaning that you will only identify it once the majority of the bulk has been infected or a significant portion of it. So what we developed is a robot that I was talking about, which spins through the grain, and we've developed around it a grain storage management system, so that the Crover robot has on board the temperature and moisture sensors and measures those two parameters as it's moving through the bulk of the grain, building a 3D map of conditions within the bulk. That map of conditions can then be visualized on our online web platform, along with historical variations in conditions, so that if you're a grain operator, you can see the current conditions, how conditions have varied over time, and you can identify if any action is required and the best time to take that action. Now, the reason why we've been able to develop this type of device is thanks to our proprietary technology for locomotion in bulk solids. In simple terms, what we've discovered is that there is a coupling between rotational and translational motion in granular media, which is what propels our Crover robot through, and on which we've been granted already a UK patent, and we have pending international filings. Here's a quick overview of our web app as well, where a user can log in, see an overview of the different sites that they've got for each site, see an overview of the different storage units, and then go into each of them and see a detailed map of conditions for each, as well as managing the various devices that they've got. The product's not commercial yet, but we're launching it early next year. With two pricing options. The primary one is a service license fee, where grain storage operators can pay a yearly fee for lease of the hardware, management of the data, and access to the web app, as well as some remote support. And the second option is a capital purchase plus the optional app subscription. Now, because our mission is that of saving grains, there is obviously a strong social and environmental impact to be at, going from making sure that more grain reaches the end of the supply chain, so making sure that less production is required for the same final outputs, also the side of kind of reducing the extensive use of pesticides towards a kind of more natural approach, and also reducing the amount of mycotoxins that end up in the grain, and which currently contaminate about 1/4 of the world food supply. And FAO has quantified the impact of grain losses during storage into about 6% of total greenhouse gas emissions coming from food waste, which is a pretty significant footprint on the impact from the food sector. Now, in terms of our journey at Crover, we started off very early on discovery of the Crover effect. We spent a lot of time kind of working through different prototypes and coming up with initially with a proof of concept, showing that we could, that it was the first device ever to be able to move in 3 directions within grain bulks. And also kind of implementing some initial sensor readings and making them work for different types of crops, the primary ones being wheat, barley, and paddy rice. We then moved on towards kind of doing some on-site testing and then industrial trials as well with local partners, in particular the Agri-Epicenter and their network of satellite farms, as well as a few other partners. As well as scale that industrial trials and testing this summer via the Agrofood project with partners both in the UK and in Italy, with which we've been piloting since the summer. We've also been lucky enough, since we're talking about funding here, we've been lucky enough to receive support from a lot of organizations, primarily grants from the likes of Scottish Enterprise, Innovate, EIT Food have been one of our top supporters as well, ASA Bake, and so on. We've managed also to raise some pre-seed equity, primarily through Crowdcube, which has been a great experience also in marketing, because you always need to keep people engaged and plan your campaign very effectively. And now we're just preparing, as I was mentioning earlier, to launch the first commercial version of our system early next year, with 4 product launch events planned across the UK and Italy. That's kind of so really our main plan for the new year is to launch a product, to sell kind of a initial small number of units, and with that up, and also work towards extending some of the features of the system so that it meets some of the some of the demands and features that we've received from different potential users. And the big target that we set ourselves is for 6,000 units to be installed in as many storage units by 2027. So one of the great things of through the journey, and initially it was just myself, but I've been lucky enough to then meet my co-founder Artyom, and then from there through the funding that we received to kind of grow a fantastic team. There's only a portion of it shown here, but we're basically 14 full-time now. And hopefully growing in the next, mostly in the areas of the product development. I think in the next months our focus will be on recruiting on the commercial side of things. So yeah, I'm really open to any questions, especially about funding and our kind of funding journey. I would say it's always like a struggle in the early stages, especially when you're just starting off and people don't know you. So our approach has been kind of progressing to the product development, building that trust, getting people to us. I think the more you risk what you're doing, and the more you get to later stages, the more it opens up funding opportunities. But here are my contact details. So I'm happy to take any questions after this presentation during the Q&A sessions. But feel free to contact me at the contact details in here if you've got any additional questions after the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorenzo. That was such an incredible presentation, and I'm sure many people have questions, so we'll get to those momentarily. But now it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Pauline Metivier from London. Pauline is a French engineer with a top-level scientific background from École Polytechnique Imperial College and successful experience in leading cross-functional teams and projects. She is currently the head of business transformation and sector support at London, which is a partnership of the Mayor of London and London's boroughs to improve waste and resource management in the capital to accelerate the transition to a low-carbon circular city. Their mission is to make London a global leader in sustainable ways to live, work, and prosper by revolutionizing people's relationship with stuff and helping London waste less and reuse, repair, share, and recycle more. So exciting, the work that you're doing, Pauline. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm really happy to be here. Over the next 20 minutes, I will be exploring why and how cities are a key player in financing a sustainable food system. And I will do this by first giving you an understanding of how sustainable or unsustainable is London food system today. And then by showing you two key ways where cities can fund the shift to a more sustainable system, either as being kind of direct funders of solutions and businesses that are driving the shift towards a more sustainable food system, or as enablers and promoters. And I will talk you through some of the examples of the things we've been doing in London in those areas. But let's start by giving you an idea of how sustainable the London food system is today. And to do that, I would like to tell you what a sustainable food system means for us. So this is the vision. So imagine a city where the food is sourced locally using agroecological and regenerative practices. Imagine a city where our diet is made of healthy food items and items that have the lowest impact on our environment. And imagine a city where all the food produced is actually used and eaten at their food potentials, and where all food waste that is absolutely unavoidable is used back into productive uses, and where nutrients in food waste ultimately come back to our soils. This is the vision of the London food system that we want to see. And this is what we are working towards as part of a program called the Food Flagship Initiative, which is a program that we run in partnership between the Greater London Authority and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And you will see later in the presentation, like all the examples that we're doing towards a more sustainable food system are part of this wider program. So now that we've seen what the vision is, let me talk to you about where we are today. So we actually asked ourselves the question about how sustainable is the London food system. And because it was hard to find the answer, we did some research and we published a report last year that was mapping the flow of food and the food waste within London, and where we estimated the carbon emissions that were arising at each stage of the supply chain. You can find the full report on our website if you want, but let me tell you the key results of this study. First big key fact, so it is 15.5 million tons of CO2 that are emitted to produce the food that we eat in London. And this is huge. This represents more than 50% of all the greenhouse gases emitted for anything that Londoners do or consume. And what's interesting is that most of it, almost 80%, are actually emitted outside of London's boundary because of the growing and production process of the food we eat. But this doesn't mean that our actions within the city can't affect those emissions that happen outside of the city boundaries. And the first good example of that is the kind of diet we choose. More than a quarter of those emissions that are associated with our food systems come from meat consumption, while meat only represents 5% of the food consumed by weight. So we know that shifting to a more vegetable-based diet, a less meat-intensive diet, will have a great impact on our carbon emissions. The second example of the thing we need to do is around food waste. Because our study revealed that 1/3 of the food produced for Londoners is wasted across the supply chain, either by the production process itself or by households. And this represents like an enormous 1.5 million tons of food waste in London every year. And this is not only an issue because obviously, CO2 emissions were emitted when this food was grown and produced that could have been avoided. But think about all the other resources that go into this food, like water, nutrients, all of it for nothing because this food is wasted. So we know that reducing food waste in our cities is key to reduce carbon emissions and to reduce the pressure we put on our natural resources. So now that we've seen some of the changes that need to happen in cities, like shifting to a more sustainable diet or reducing food waste, let's see what we can do. And the first good news is our local authorities, we can see, are more and more taking a leadership role to support this transition. And I will now talk to you about the two key types of roles that city can play to support this transition, either as direct funders or as enablers. But let's start with cities as direct funders. So in the past 2 years, we ran 2 large grant programs for small businesses in London who were developing more sustainable business models to reduce waste. With the first one, so the first one was funded as part of the Mayor of London's Green New Deal, and we delivered almost 400 grants and also some direct support and coaching to 34 businesses that were willing to develop pilots for new ways to reduce waste. So many of those pilots were actually being fully new ways of reducing waste that were tested for the first time. And it was not only good for the environment, but we also created and safeguarded more than 400 local jobs as a result of this program. The second program was funded by East London Council. There we delivered almost 150,000 pounds of grants and direct support to 24 businesses. And here again, we were very pleased with the impact, and especially the fact that half of the businesses that received those grants were actually new to the circular economy. So they were business as usual business, like mainly in the hospitality sector, restaurants or so, and that were really struggling with the recovery post-COVID, with the recovery post-COVID. But we know that it's a good sign that we can actually change the status quo with regular small businesses in the food sector. So those 2 grant programs actually operated across all sectors, so not only in the food one, but we had many food-related pilots that were created as part of it. So I will now show you one example of this. So Kego & Co, they are a London caterer, and they noticed that lots of perfectly edible, high-quality foods were wasted in the event they participated in and just ended up in the bin. And so with the grant that they received as part of our program, they were able to pilot new ways of using those previously wasted food into high-quality menu items, into those conscious canapes. And they've been really pleased with the impact. They were able to save more than 1 kilogram of waste within only 100 of those conscious canapes, while still maintaining their margin and getting great feedback and engagement from their customers. So this actually shows that doing the right thing, running your business more sustainably can actually create some great business opportunities. So it's not only about doing the right thing. Let me now talk to you about the second big ways that local authority can support the transition to a sustainable food system. So not as being direct funder, but just as being enablers and promoters of good initiatives and solutions and businesses driving the transition towards a more sustainable food system. And well, they can use their position as a focal point between citizens, between businesses and innovators, either to encourage a shift to a more sustainable consumption from citizens themselves, or to encourage a shift within the food industry. And I will now show you a few examples of this. So one key way that cities can drive the shift to a more sustainable food system is actually to run behavior change campaigns, where they talk directly to citizens about and encourage them to do the right thing. So we ran this campaign called Trifocal 3 years ago, and it was in partnership with 10 other European cities. There we encourage citizens to shift to a more sustainable diet, we encourage them to reduce their waste, and we encourage them to put their food waste into the recycling bin. And you can see some of the campaign visuals here. The impact of that campaign were really amazing. We measured almost a 10% reduction in avoidable food waste generated per household. That's massive. And we are quite excited now because we are on the verge of launching a new campaign in a very few months' time, and we are actually looking for some partners and sponsors. So if you're interested to be involved, please reach out. Another example to encourage citizens to reduce food waste is by promoting some solutions they have, some business solutions for them to reduce their waste. And this is what we did. We partner with the borough of Bexley, like a part of London, and we ran a localized promotion campaign for 2 food waste saving apps, Kitche and Olio. And for those who don't know them, Kitche is an app that works as a virtual fridge. They give you tips on how to make the best use of the food you buy. They send you reminders before product use-by dates, and they will suggest recipes that you can do with things that you have on your fridge. And Olio is an app that allows you to share food you don't want with your neighbors. And they also have a side of their business where they connect food businesses, restaurants with volunteers to redistribute their food surplus. So here again, we were very pleased with the results. On one side, Kitche, they were quite new in the borough of Bexley, so they gained like a lot of traction toward the residents. And all those new users, they reported that they only wasted 3% of the food they bought during the campaign, compared to a 14% national average. So it's almost an 80% reduction of the overall food waste generated by those users. And Olio, on the other side, they had a much more solid user base in the borough, but they saw an uplift of almost 40% of their users and were able to save a lot of food waste as part of this program. Let's talk now on how cities can support the food industry itself to become more sustainable. And one thing we can do is to connect food businesses with innovators that will bring them solutions to reduce their waste. So that's what we did. So it was back in 2020 when everything was still virtual, but we managed to run these virtual events where we connected 20 food innovators with 15 of the largest food businesses across the supply chain, with big names like Tesco, Waitrose, Pret, Nando's, or Nestle. And since then, we delivered more programs to connect innovators with large buyers and with local authorities that can use, their procurement power to, to shift the way that our circular our economy works, and to shift to a more sustainable food system. And lastly, the last thing that cities can do to support the transition towards a more sustainable food system is to promote what looks good, to inspire businesses to replicate some successful sustainable initiatives. And this is why in London we developed this stamp, the Circular Food Pioneer Project. And by this, we recognize London projects that are making a shift to a more sustainable food system. And we are supporting those projects not only by shouting out and promoting what they do, but also by providing some direct coaching and by connecting them with our networks of investors or other potential business partners. So we have now I think 9 London circular food pioneer projects, but one example of that is Toast. They are a London-based beer company that instead of using only raw cereals as an ingredient for their beers, they use surplus bread that would have been wasted otherwise. And we supported them also because they actually received a grant from the Mayor's Green New Deal program that I talked to you about earlier, that allowed them to test a new part of the service, like a B2B service, where they produce like a bread starter for other breweries to use instead of using raw material. And it was a great opportunity for them to scale and extend their impact in reducing bread waste in London. So finally, I'd like to wrap up and just tell you how you can be involved with us if that's of interest. So if you are an innovator transforming the food system, you can register with our business transformation program. You can connect with more than 350 like-minded businesses that are doing their part to reduce waste, and also with our network of investors, local authorities, and corporates. You will be able to also amplify your reach, so you can apply to become a food pioneer project and also access some other promotional opportunities. And lastly, you can apply for bespoke support and bespoke coaching. And applications are now open, and so you can apply on our website until the 12th of December. So please check it out if you're interested. And finally, if you are a large food business, we will be very happy to work with you to lead the transformation. We can connect you with the food innovators in our portfolio that can help you make your business more sustainable. We can promote your sustainability achievements. So if you're doing great things in London, we want to hear about it, and you can become a food pioneer project. And lastly, you can help us by supporting the transformation. So we are looking for sponsors and partners for the behavior change campaign I talked to you earlier, but also we will be happy to run some more kind of grant programs for London innovators with you if you're interested to support that work too. So thank you very much. I'll be happy to take any questions during the Q&A session, and you have my contacts here, so please reach out if you're interested to work with us in the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Pauline. And yes, once again, just to reiterate, if anyone wants to get in touch with any of our speakers, we are here to connect them with our speakers. But yeah, without further ado, I will introduce our next speaker, who is, I'm sorry if I pronounce the name slightly incorrectly, Gbadebo Odularu. He is the founder and chief strategist of No Hunger Food Bank. He has dedicated nearly 25 years of his career to the global nonprofit sector and served as a regional food policy advocacy and analyst for the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa for almost a decade. In addition to his food and nutrition security knowledge expertise, he has garnered in the field food value chain experience at the fresh food logistics departments of major American multinational supermarket and retail corporations that operate a chain of grocery stores and hypermarkets such as Walmart and Sheetz. He's driven by the mission to eliminate hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition by leading several strategic initiatives aimed at distributing nutritious food across vulnerable communities while addressing the root cause of hunger. He currently leads the practice and establishment of food trade and digitalization academies, which are aimed at enhancing food logistics and connectivity infrastructure towards expanding the percentage of fresh fruits and vegetables consumed by the priority populations, including infants, children, mothers, older adults, and the minorities. Welcome. The stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. My name is Gbadebo, and the pronunciation was good. And that is a great privilege for this opportunity to present No Hunger Food Bank and what No Hunger Food Bank is doing to enhance sustainability in the food systems. So, and it's also important to present it within the scope of looking at the food systems, not just within the private sector or the business perspective, but also looking at the missing puzzle or the role that charity organizations or non-profit organizations play, especially within the context of the presentation within the context of earlier presentations focusing on how to reduce hunger, how to make the food systems more sustainable, but at the same time, reducing waste, reducing loss, and enhancing resilience within the food system. So, and that's where No Hunger Food Bank comes in, as a non-profit, as a charity organization, as an organization that helps to reduce hunger and contribute towards one of the vital goals of the UN Sustainable Development Agenda, which is UNSDG 2. Reducing hunger or achieving zero hunger. So the presentation is within this outline, introducing what we do and presenting our organizational governance framework, because as a non-profit, one of the effective approaches to enhancing financing strategies and making financing of non-profits, especially in the food space, to be more sustainable is through the systems put in place by the non-profit organization. So that makes organizational governance very key, which is what this presentation will be adding to the whole discussion for today, and also looking at it from the perspective of fiscal transparency and tying that with what No Hunger Food Bank does in order to enhance the financing of its programs towards ensuring that it reduces hunger and eliminates malnutrition, wasting among vulnerable populations, especially internally displaced people in Africa, specifically Nigeria. So the next slide basically tells us what approach, the integrated approach of No Hunger Food Bank as an organization, and how is using that approach, or how is leveraging that approach to reduce hunger and malnutrition. And that is based on its three major pillars. We've got the pillar of food banking as a mechanism or as a tool for reducing hunger and enhancing sustainability within the food system. Empowerment, which is also very key, that's empowerment of the targeted clientele of No Hunger Food Bank, mostly vulnerable people. Then the policy support perspective to it. So those three pillars really are really the critical drivers that help in reducing food and nutritional security, also at the same time creating jobs and enhancing our well-being. That's health, enhancing our health system in Nigeria, in Africa, and in the world, if we may put it like that. And what makes this really important is the multiple role that a food banking tool or the mechanism could play in reducing hunger, and at the same time helping to reduce food loss, reduce food waste within our food system, thereby making it more sustainable. Before I present the organizational governance that helps to contribute to food, to sustainability in food system, it's also good to say a couple of words about the programs that we embark upon as an organization. If you visit the No Hunger Food Bank website, which is basically nohungerfoodbank.org, we've got a number of programs that help us to drive these three pillars. And some of these programs include the temporary food assistance program, which basically provide food and essential nutritional meals to the vulnerable population, which is also like a hunger relief intervention for the vulnerable communities. And we also have a program that is referred to as a school meal program, which is basically double, or is combining two interventions, because it's promoting children, enhancing children schooling, at the same time incentivizing children to go to school and enhance their educational development. So most of our programs they cut across children, enhancing, reducing malnutrition, wasting among children, among mothers, among the vulnerable population, and also the elderly population. So these programs, I would just mention them quickly. Nutritional meals for targeted students, community breakfast program, school bag program. There's another one we call disaster strikes. And why disaster strikes? You all agree with me that there's no better time to have innovative programs to reduce hunger and achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 2, other than this post-pandemic period. We know that the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, has actually created more health inequities and food inequities among vulnerable populations, among underserved populations, and No Hunger Food Bank is responding to this program is responding to these challenges through its innovative programs, and not just using it to respond to the challenges that hungry people face in Africa, but looking at it within the scope of sustainability of our food systems. So in that regard, I present our organizational governance that helps us to enhance transparency, accountability, as well as sustainability in our programs. Because we believe that once we enhance sustainability, accountability, and transparency in what we do, and if this is scaled across all organizations, especially charity organizations, it will definitely contribute to enhancing sustainability along the food space. So we've got our executive board members, which I would not want to read their names, but what their roles and contributions are. They are really very important in helping us to enhance sustainability of our programs and the transparency of what we do, and also helping us to report back to how we generate financing, just like every other charity organization, and how we're able to sustain what we do, which is how the sustainability component comes in. And we also have an advisory team in addition to the board members, which are basically executive. The advisory team helps also guide our programs and enhance the innovation as well as the inclusiveness in the programs that we implement, just like the programs I presented earlier on, the programs I highlighted earlier on. And the organizational governance do not just exist as in silo, as in maybe we just have them, but there are responsibilities that are expected to play. There are certain procedures that guide what they do and what they are not expected to do, and which also build in and dovetail into the activities and the programs that No Hunger Food Bank implements. And I also as a non-profit organization, we don't operate just as a non-profit or in the non-profit space, but we operate across the community, because No Hunger Food Bank is a community-driven, and within a community, as a community-driven intervention, is only able to operate sustainably based on its communication and engagement with all the community members, the private sector, the research organizations, the university, the government, and we see it in a couple of slides, how we connect with other government agencies as well as all other enterprises within our communities in order to sustain what we do and deliver on our expectations, as well as deliver on our programs to our targeted audience. We also know that research is very key in what we do, and we've got researchers aboard that help in collecting data to inform the sustainability and the innovativeness in the programs that we implement. And these are the board of researchers we have aboard, and that also relates to what IntelliDigest does, and the goal of IntelliDigest in enhancing agropreneurship from a digital tech perspective. And these youths, these researchers we have about, they are mostly graduates, and they help us in collecting data. They help us in looking at digital tools, technological tools, how artificial intelligence could help in enhancing sustainability of the organization, as well as enhancing sustainability across the value chain actors within the specific commodity value chain. And they also contribute to all our publications, like our newsletters, our blog series, and as well as other publications that we do that require data. So we've got the researchers about that get that done. And that most of them are also volunteers. It's important for us to know that they are volunteers. So the question now is, if they are volunteers, is that sustainable enough, or would that be like that into the future? I would say yes and no. No organizations such as non-profit organizations such as No Food Bank rely so much on volunteering, and that doesn't mean that they are not being incentivized. If we involve them in programs like IntelliDigest forthcoming programs on agripreneurship, on agrotechpreneurship programs. We engage them with that. We open them to a lot of opportunities to help them launch their careers, so that they are not just within Non Food Bank system, but to help them connect with other programs, even like the EIT Food. When the time comes when EIT Food launches in Africa, we like to engage them so that they'll be able to connect with the HEI program that EIT Food presented in a few minutes ago. And another program we also engage them with is the recent funding that the Non Food Bank got from the U.S. Embassy in Abuja, Nigeria, and that funding is based on it's called the Ambassadors Funding Program for Indigenous Community. And the program was basically to enhance the capacities of indigenous women in Nigeria, specifically in Kwara State, to enhance their productivity in the cassava value chain and also double their income. So it's helping to see the sustainability component of what we do and looking at it from the entrepreneurial perspective. So that's part of the work that we do that helps us to enhance sustainability within what we do. So I was saying earlier on that Non Food Bank operates within the community, and there are government agencies that we collaborate with, that we discuss with, to help to accelerate what we do, to help to leverage on what we have currently, and to help to deliver on the programs we've got. So most of those ministries they are right on the slide, as you can see them. And in addition to that is the fact that we also connect with other partners that are at the continental and global level. A food bank as a paradigm or as a model is got a global body, or a global partner that oversees and empowers and strengthens the capacities of other food banks across the world. And that's a global organization, is the Global Food Banking Network, which is based in Chicago. And we collaborate with them. They're one of our partners, and it helps us to also enhance the sustainability in the programs that we deliver and in meeting the needs of our targeted clientele. Collecting this also relates to what we call the fiscal transparency in what we do in terms of what we have on ground, the workers, the people that work with us, and the systems available within the government that help to make sustainability happen as an organization or as a non-profit. So some of the participants will know that before you register a non-profit or an NGO, as it's called in Nigeria, there are a series of steps. There are a series of procedures that you need to undertake that help to strengthen the systems and make it more sustainable and make it more impactful for the vulnerable communities, especially as hunger is really eating deep, and hunger is even causing more humanitarian crisis with the flooding that happened that occurred last month and affecting food systems in Nigeria, in West African countries. So the fiscal transparency systems put in place by the government has also helped us to solidify what Non-Hunger Food Bank does, and also to attract our partners, to attract our strategic alliances, not only within the country but also outside the country. And the last slide I will present is how do we get the financing? How do we get the financing of Non-Hunger Food Bank? Of course, we rely so much on donors. We rely so much on our community members, how they provide financing. But the question is this sustainable? How do we enhance sustainability in financing of the food system generally? But also, how do we enhance financing of non-governmental organizations or charity organizations that are helping to fix the missing puzzle within a food system? And that's where Non-Hunger Food Bank comes in. What we do, we connect with all, you can see, we connect with all organizations, enterprises, banks, especially today being International Day for Banks. So we connect with banks, we connect with farmers, we connect with farmers organizations, just like Angus' presentation, which was very brilliant. We connect with all of them to tell them what we do and to help them to reduce food waste. And by the mere fact of them reducing food waste, and it helps us to have enough resources to provide to our targeted clientele. But at the same time, it also helps them to contribute to reduction in or being aware of climate change and contribute to the problem and contribute to the reduction of the problems caused by climate change. Because one good implication of that is increasing role of what is called food rescue. So we meet with all these organizations, especially grocery organizations, other organizations that are in the food value chain, and see how we could help them to use our tools, technological tools, digital tools being developed to help in reducing food rescue. So we have a food rescue department that is really vibrant, that's helping to connect with that, connecting with Jumia, connecting with other restaurants, because there's a lot of waste that is being that occur, a lot of ways that occurs in restaurants, in across the increasing number of enterprises, especially food waste. So we have a department on the food rescue that help to reduce that problem, and so the sustainability part of reducing that problem is getting that problem to meet the needs of increasing hungry population and malnourished children. It's on that basis I wrap up to my presentation, and thank you for your attention. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Wow, my mind is blown. I'd like to call back all of our panelists, Pauline, Lorenzo, and stay here, Gabedo. It has been great to hear from you. I'd like to actually start with a question for you. I'm always curious about food banks. They play such an important role actually in markets all over the world to really support the needs of vulnerable populations. And I wondered, are you communicating with other food banks and other locations to share knowledge, ideas, and best practices? The impact that you're doing is so localized, but by doing this, of course, all of you can learn from each other and, do better in the work that you're doing locally. So I just wondered, what is the relationship with other food banks around the world, and how closely are you collaborating?
Absolutely. Thank you, Christine. So we collaborate with first nationally, and we collaborate continentally. We also collaborate globally. Globally, we collaborate with the Global Food Banking Network, which is in Chicago, which we have regular meetings with them to update them, share knowledge, share ideas, tell them our plans, our strategic plans, our management, our governance structure. So that takes place at the global level, at the continental level too, because food banking is just coming up in Africa. Just a few African countries are really the forefront. South Africa is there, Kenya is there, Botswana, a few of them, yeah. But in Nigeria, we also have Lagos Food Bank, which is barely like 5-6 years old. So we collaborate, and recently, they like 2 weeks ago, there was a workshop for all African food banks that was held in Kenya and was facilitated by the Global Food Banking Network. So there's a lot of integration, collaboration, sustainable exchange of ideas, building on knowledge across food banks that is helping us to leverage on lessons learned in order to have more innovative programs to meet our targeted clientele.
That's amazing. I love to hear that because collaboration is the future. I have some questions from the audience, but before I dive into those, I wanted to ask you, Pauline, the same question, which is, all of the work that you're leading in the City of London can be a beacon, a blueprint for municipalities all over the world. So how are you sharing and collaborating with other cities and other locations?
Yeah, well, it's really important for us to collaborate with other cities in the work we do in food, but also across all sectors to reduce waste. We are actually involved in a number of European programs. So I didn't mention in my presentation, but we are part of a program called Food Wave, which is about incentivizing young people to reduce waste, care about food, and thinking about their diet. And so the lead city for this program is Milan, but there are 15 cities, in Europe and also Sao Paulo in America that are taking part of this program. And we are also a supporter of something called the Circular Cities Declaration, which is about kind of cities committing to reduce their waste and develop the circular economy. And obviously, food is a big part of that. So yeah, really important for us to share what we learn here, and also hear from others to get inspired.
Amazing. Lorenzo, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I just called up for something else. I'm here.
Oh, okay. Do you have time for a question now, or should we come back to you?
Yes, of course.
Oh, I just wanted to ask you really quickly about, do you have competitors?
Good question. I mean, we get told all the time that everyone has competitors, right? So a competitor is just someone who offers a product or service that can provide, that can solve a similar problem to the one that you do. So in our case, when we're talking about, managing grain storage, you've got those kind of, manual probes that I was talking about earlier, and static sensing solutions. You've got, in a sense, fumigants and pesticides are a way of maintaining the quality of the stock. So they're not, they're quite different from what we do, and I think in a way they can be complementary to what we do, but they're still kind of competitive in the traditional sense.
Yeah, I love it. And all of you have hit on a message I love to espouse, which is collaboration is your competitive advantage. So like you said, complementary solutions, in the same space is exciting. We have a number of questions coming from the audience, which I'd love to get to. First, over to you, Gbedebo. Several Nigerians have been duped owing to fake and illegal funding sites on the internet. What do you think can be done to stop such illegal activities from henceforth? Hey, it's not just in Nigeria. I mean, we've seen what's happened globally. Crypto, these types of issues are rampant. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Cybersecurity is the in thing. In this digital age, we need to, in order to curb being duped, or in order to curb any of these problems of financial. So we need to put in place a more rigorous financial regulations, as well as cybersecurity policies that will help to reduce being duped or any of these problems. So it's possible, it's doable. Of course, that doesn't mean that it will not happen, but we just need to keep being innovative in putting in place the right financial regulations, as well as cyber security policy frameworks to help reduce such challenges.
Yeah, we talked in the previous section about like systems-based solutions. And, you know, in my work, we are working with entrepreneurs across Africa and in Nigeria. And it's extremely challenging to get even nominal amounts of funding to some of these like startups, you know, like a lot of the cash transfer services don't work. And so I believe when we're looking at food tech and ag tech, we also need to be looking at fintech and, you know, social solutions and all of these things, because it's just, there's not exactly one shot you can take that is going to solve this. There's, you know, everybody needs to be working together holistically. And of course, then looking at unintended consequences and mitigating adverse impacts, e.g. things like cybersecurity and scams. So lots to think about when you're trying to drive forward change. I wanted to ask you, Pauline, about the question about food waste. How do you save the excess food, which is, you know, received from restaurants? How do you distribute that to those in need without much hassle?
Okay, so that's a really good question, and there are actually several models in place in London that do that right now. One of the challenge from food waste coming out of restaurants specifically is that usually the use by date will come very quickly compared to other food that maybe wholesaler or retailers will produce. So that's a big challenge. So we've seen like lots of different things, from an app called Too Good To Go that connect restaurants with consumer citizens, and that enable restaurants to sell their surplus food for a much reduced price to citizens. And the only thing is that the consumer may not choose exactly what they will get, but it's a great way to reduce food waste, and also also enabling people to accept food for like a reduced price, which is a good thing right now, as we're kind of living in a cost of living crisis that's quite critical. Another type of model are like kind of large charities running some kind of redistribution hubs that collect food waste from food businesses and redistribute them to charities that need them. So yeah, lots of models in place, but I think right now the challenge is really to kind of scale those operations, because it only represents like a small part of all the food waste that is produced by food businesses right now.
And are there legal issues and safety issues with regards to like restaurant waste that goes directly to consumers? How are those being addressed?
Well, the player in that space, they are kind of respecting all the regulations in place, and so I guess it's a lot of kind of logistics involved to make sure the food is fit for health and for purpose. Once again, that put some constraints on the operation, that put some cost into it, but it's something that all those players are managing to do in London.
Yeah, nice. I recently held an event in the US in Brooklyn, and we donated our food waste, actually very seamlessly via an app. And we had to pay a small fee, but actually they have like a gig economy type setup where kind of people like they use the fee to pay people to come pick up the waste, and then they donate it to vulnerable populations. So, as an event, we felt great, like from the sustainability side. And then also, you are supporting people who are in need to get the food that they need, and also workers to have an additional income stream. So I found it like a quite nice, seamless, easy to use solutions. And I think that these are the types of nudges we need in the world, actually, to make things easy. So in that vein, Lorenzo, like, how easy is it to use Clover? Is it pretty accessible for people to get their hands on and use in their operations?
We're working on making it, making the experience easier and easier for especially the wide variety of grain storage operators that we deal with. Because from what we've seen so far, from a farmer to the other farmer, but especially between a farmer and a grain merchant and a cooperative, they tend to do things quite differently. We've seen both geographic differences, but even within the same country and sector, we see people doing things extremely differently. And I think that's been one of the challenges that we've had to deal with, kind of trying to develop the system in a way that works for the widest range of grain storage operators. I think we've been somewhat successful in that so far, but I think there's still improvement to be had. And as we, as we launch commercially, I think we're going to see things that, possibly we haven't seen so far as well. But yeah, we've taken all the feedback that we received so far, and we've made it easier and then more user friendly. We've spent on the export of the app and of the hardware,
yeah, that constant iteration, is necessary, especially with hardware solutions. We have a great question from Kyle Bradshaw, who's asking, speaking of unintended consequence, how much revenue would farmers lose if 1/3 of their food wasn't wasted? Because not everything could be donated or still be used by everyone. So yeah, what happens if the food wasn't wasted?
Is that for me?
You could take it. Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really interesting question. Might not be the best person to answer that one, but I think ultimately we've seen a lot, especially recently in the UK, where supermarkets weren't passing on the extra profits to farmers, and with a reduction in production, it just had very severe consequences to farmers. So I think there's always a need to be more resilient in the production and make sure that the losses are reduced. And I think it's quite unlikely that the revenue would be reduced. If anything, it would probably be improved because of the better margins. But I think we might have better economists on this call who can.
Yeah. Does anybody else have a reaction to that about
Yeah, maybe I would just like to say that, with the food wasted, it's a loss of value for everyone, really. I guess you could turn the question in the other head, like, what if, all the money we put into our food was put into the food that we actually use? And then it just means like more money for like less food. So it's just mean more from the farmers that produce it. So it's just, I think, no one has any interest of, wasting food in the supply chain ultimately. So it's about, making sure that we use this as a fullest, and we and I guess we pay the right price for the farmers to produce it in a way that is regenerative for our soil, and that make sure that the food loop is preserved.
Yeah, and I think it's like somebody else. Oh, well, it's Ify is making the point that we can prevent food loss on the farm, right? We can prevent it in the first place. We can, prevent food waste and loss around the supply chain, not just at that consumer level, but also, I mean, there's so much variability about the standards and quality of, for example, fresh produce that's demanded by different players in the food chain. And so like we've worked with a company that's really using some like logistics solutions to take, for example, avocados and say, you're at the right, quality point to go towards this buyer who's using it for smoothies, and this buyer needs it a little bit more fresh for this purpose. And so you can really like even optimize at that warehousing level before it then hits supermarket shelves. And then of course there's exciting solutions at the consumer level. I actually just bought the other day avocados made with a peel. Have you guys heard of a peel's solution, where they actually have a coating around the avocado peel that, extends its shelf life? And so all of these, different solution areas can help to reduce waste. And we know that our food waste is contributing substantially to the climate crisis. But to your point, Kyle, I think there is this opportunity around optimization of growing. Right now, we have like this patchwork of decentralized farms, and we can indeed prevent waste by helping farmers know what to grow, when, and then, you know, making sure that there's like that appropriate market for what they do grow. And this is where I think a lot of like the data solutions can link in and help a lot. But we need everybody fighting on all fronts, right, to make sure that our food waste is reduced. And so, as Kyle says, yes, better distribution and preservation, for instance, does seem very obvious at this point. So I wanted to ask you, when it comes to food sustainability, is there like a misconception that you find most people have? And what is that misconception? And what would you say is a way to overcome that? Maybe starting with you, Gbedebo.
Yeah. So one of the misconceptions, especially as we just the COP27 was wrapped up, was some controversies whether the climate change is actually real or not. Especially if you look at the last regime in the US, whether even US being the biggest country in the world. That pulled out of the Paris Agreement and saying, okay, all this climate change were not really so. So there have been controversies, and with of course now with the current regime and increasing involvement of G27, the global, the COP, there's now reduction in that controversies. And I think one of the solutions that was arrived at the COP 27 in Egypt is the whole idea around climate reparations. And because a particular region has not really contributed to that challenge of the climate change, and that region seems to be suffering the most on the problem. So, and that region, especially the global South, especially Africa, will not be able to contribute as much financially like the global North. So that idea of coming up with climate reparation is really dear to my heart, and I think it will be one of the game changers that will help to solve the problem, and also enhancing sustainability within the food systems, and also helping to reduce increasing. If you look at the latest report of the state of food insecurity in the world, you see that we're not doing very well. The future is really precarious for hunger and malnutrition and wasting among children. So looking at this piece of this missing piece of climate reparation and accelerating the implementation of such intervention could help to enhance our food system sustainability. Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, I mean, it seems cruel that we are having this rising food insecurity, countries whose farmers' livelihoods are being decimated by climate change, and at the same time, a third of our food is wasted. I mean, it's a cruel irony and something that we have the chance to solve. Pauline, what about you? What's a misconception that people have about food and the food system, and what can we do to overcome it?
Yeah, well, I guess the biggest one is how we see food waste and the value we put into it. And one of the thing is like food businesses, they have to actually pay to dispose of their food waste. And I think the thing they need to think of is, how can I, because I'm paying for this, can I pay for this food surplus to go somewhere where it can be eaten? and it's sometimes hard for redistribution businesses to ask for a fee from businesses, but as soon as you label it as waste, they're ready to do it. So I think there is something about how we consider food waste, and it's something for households too as well to think about.
Absolutely. And Lorenzo, what about you?
But I think one that is close to my heart is the fact that a lot of people often think of the food sector as being a kind of low technology type of sector. We really all style technologies, and I think that's probably true because that's what most farmers use. But at the same time, we've been seeing a growing level of automation on the fields. You've got tractors that can do full routes and activities on their own, either remotely controlled or entirely on their own. We just came back a few weeks ago from EMA International in Bologna, where there was a stream of really high-tech solutions, which are probably even higher tech than some of the tech that you see for space. So I think this idea that the agriculture industry is just adopting technologies that come from somewhere else, I think we're a little bit kind of hoping to help change a bit by implementing our novel technology first in the agriculture sector, even though it can potentially be applied further down the line in other sectors. But I think that we can, that not myself, but other people could do to help in that, make a positive change in that sense, is that a lot of other sectors see, much faster technology adoption, because to make new technologies low cost and widely adopted enough, it takes a lot of capital and investments. And there are other sectors that have already that cycle of high amounts of capital that go into new ventures, and then the profits from that go into new and so on. And I think the agriculture sector is kind of just getting started in that sense, especially for like hardware solutions. So we just need to push them more and create more capital to get that cycle going a bit faster.
Oh my gosh, music to my ears. This is like always what I talk about. I mean, how we can get people excited about all of the opportunities to bring technology and innovation into this space. I mean, we are on spaceship Earth, so space age tech can be applied here, and there's no, more important and transformational sector than our food system. And so I think, you at Crover are like, again, a beacon for what is possible. And, starting with food and food waste and preventing food loss that can be taken, to so many other realms. So very exciting. I know we just have a couple of minutes left. And again, I'm so sorry. I'm like suffering from a massive cold right now. But I just wanted to have each of you kind of leave with some parting thoughts for our audience. We're here at World Soil Day. It's International Day of Banks. What the heck do these two days have to do with each other? Well, a lot, actually, because we need to fund the transition to regenerate our soils and make our food systems more abundant. Over to you. Excuse me.
Yeah, happy to pick that up, that one up. So I guess for me, what I will take back from this is the necessity of collaboration, and we see that at city level. And I guess one take back for the audience is think about the role of cities in what you're doing. Like local authorities want to take their part and to support the transition, and we are like a key player that can bring people together, like the innovators, like Crover or other innovators that can help businesses doing the right thing, and that can encourage people to do the right thing as well. So yeah, think about engaging with the cities you operate in. I think that would be a good start.
Lorenzo?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things going through my mind right now, but I think in terms of parting thoughts, we talked a lot about how there is the need for a variety of solutions, and they need to be with each other. So I think we just need, especially now post-Brexit in the UK, we just need more of a push from DEFRA and the government for more wider solutions, even ones that maybe we haven't seen. And I think I wish we can see a positive push in that direction, in a kind of increase in funding, especially 100% contribution from the government in the next months. That would be nice, although it seems to be going the other direction right now.
Gebebo, the final word is with you. What's your final message for all of us on World Soil Day and International Day of Banks?
Yeah, thank you, Christine. A collaborative intervention, strategic alliances in an innovative manner would be awesome, because today being a day that where World Soil Day coincides with International Day for Banks, I think it helps us to further rethink and reframe our solutions in a more innovative and more collaborative manner. Government, private sectors, all of them coming together to find better solutions. And it also helps us to also rethink, in the sense that sometimes we think that old methods are really not functional again. Sometimes our old grammars, solutions may actually be what we're looking for, especially with the soils. So if we could think along that line, I think that will really help us make a big solution to what the future holds for us. Yeah, thank you.
Old meets new, just like we're seeing in the screen right now. Not that you're old, don't read into that. But the new ideas meeting the kind of ancient wisdom, I think is a wonderful parting message. Ify, I would love to turn the floor over to you to close out this amazing session. I have spent decades in the food and agriculture sector and learned so much today from these speakers. Thanks for curating this important conversation on these important days. And thanks for inviting me. Apologies again that I am so sick, but it's been a wonderful experience. Over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Christina. Thank you to all the speakers. Wonderful conversation, very interesting points that have been raised, and I'm sure that most of the points raised have really connected with most of us. And now it's really a great time to then take on into some action and ensure that in all that we're doing, we are supporting and enabling the transition to a more sustainable food system. Together, we can do it. Thank you very much and have a lovely day. Bye.